Hello, and welcome into Full Screen Podcast. I'm your host, Kira Aster, and joining me today, as always, on her promo tour for Asteroid City, but really using this opportunity to shit on the MCU, it's Raven Ebert. Hi, Raven.
Hi. I mean, good for Scarlett Johansson. I feel that she reminds me a lot of like those pictures of Nicole Kidman after her divorce from Tom Cruise, where she's just like standing in the sun and looking like the personification of freedom. And I get that feeling because I was just on vacation. Hashtag blast.
We love to see Scarlett happy. We love to see her thriving in France. Can't wait for the red carpet. Tell us about your vacation, Raven. You went into a nature situation for 2 weeks.
I sure did. I went to the mountains of Utah, the canyons of Utah. I'm a aficionado of national parks, so I also recommend that people check out all the national parks while they're still around and not sold off for their minerals and natural resources. But Utah is home to 5 parks. I saw them, and I can tell you that there were flashes of Asteroid City in a lot of these parks. You know, the deserts of the Southwest, very symmetrical.
I just want to quickly pause here and say how good you are at this, just tying things together left and right. Just my little podcaster right here.
What can I say? I'm a consummate host. You know, I love to bring things back to a theme. Movies are back, cinema is back, and I've kind of been doing my own cinematic tour. I went to Death Valley last year where they shot this little indie movie in the 70s called Star Wars. I don't know if you've heard of it. It didn't really make much
never heard of it. Maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's just like, you don't know whatever happened to those people or that universe. It's kind of a mystery. But I went to Utah where, of course, James Franco had his hand stuck in the rock in 127 hours. I went to Utah, but I didn't see the rock. I guess he's doing some promo for Black Adam still. Did you like that?
Doctoring some numbers, yeah.
I think I stole it from a comedian. I want to say it was Tracy Morgan who's like, yeah, or I think it was actually Seth Rogen that said, yeah, James Franco had his hand stuck in the rock, and the rock got paid $100 million to have that happen to. So it was beautiful, and I recommend a vacation for everybody. And if you don't have the ability to take a vacation, then maybe it's time to start looking into some labor organization.
Okay, no spoilers for our topic today. We'll get to that. But beautifully done. So happy for you. So happy you got some nature time, and so happy that we're back. Since we took a few weeks off, there was a lot going on in the world, and I thought we'll do a little bit of a catch-up. I'll say one phrase or one thing that we've missed, and Raven, you're going to say what comes to mind with that phrase or word, and then I'm going to say it, and then we'll just recap and get caught up on what we've missed. All right, sound good?
Let's do it.
Number 1, Nepo babies.
I believe that this is why we shouldn't outlaw bullying. Because what else can you do with a Nepo baby, right? You chase them off of Twitter. You chase them off of Instagram.
Yeah. What comes to mind for me is cancel The Idol. Please, France, what are we doing? Stop this. Look up The Idol, guys.
No, actually, don't look up The Idol. Don't give it any kind of search engine results. Don't give it any kind of traction in terms of social media presence, because this sort of shit lives and dies by the fuel that we add as public discussions. And I've been saying this for a long time, but let's just pretend Sam Levinson does not exist. Just be like, is someone talking? Like when he's...
It's not real. It looks fake. Anyway, whatever. Let's move on. Number 2, corporate advertising.
Fight Club is an excellent deconstruction of corporate whoring out while making it seem like they're teaching you something, because David Fincher knows about advertising and he was a music director for Madonna. So he knows a lot about like trying to get things made and pushing something to the center without making it the focus. So
This podcast is also sponsored by the upcoming movie by David Fincher called The Killer. So, no,
oh,
it's not.
sorry, we're sponsoring The Killer. We are paying for it, as in we're going to
Yes.
go see it and say, David Fincher, please never stop making movies and television shows about freaks, whores, sluts, mutants.
What a time. What comes to mind for me for corporate advertising? This is real, by the way. The big Uber Eats bag during the pancake family breakfast scene in this show called The Citadel by the Russo brothers on Amazon Prime. It's a family breakfast and it's just like a big Uber Eats bag that they zoom in on.
None of these words are in the Bible. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to have to take your word for it, because Uber Eats bag, like, no. The Citadel? Amazon Prime? Russo brothers? What is this? What are you talking about? I've never heard of her.
It's gonna be, apparently it's like gonna be a thing for, with a lot of spin-offs. They're creating a world with different citadels. There's going to be a Citadel India, Citadel of different countries because it's a spy organization. Again,
Yeah. I'm so thrilled
don't.
about that. Let's make espionage look cool, but also, Amazon doesn't have money. They need Uber money to get their television shows made.
They're desperately looking for a franchise, as we know. All right. Number 3, Met Gala.
Fuck them. Fuck them all. It is so boring. They can't keep to a theme. And I'm really questioning the role that education plays in the lives of the wealthy, because once upon a time, it was the wealthy that could afford to go to school. But now I'm like, they've become dumber.
Yeah. What comes to mind for me is every year it's a calendar reminder that the real event, Cannes Film Festival, is happening. So,
Does it fuck shit up for you as a New Yorker in terms of like,
it's no one notices it. Nothing stops. No one cares. It's pretty great. All right, number 4. This is a good one. I'm excited about this. Matt Healy.
can I barf? Is that gonna be enough? I've hated the 1975 for a really long time, and I can blame Matt Healy for being the kind of patient zero for a lot of dudes on, I would just say, the wild, being, acting, and looking the way that they do, where they present themselves as walking the lines between gender presentation, but at the same time, really hate women. Love that for me. So,
It's
fuck 'em.
rough. Yeah. What comes to mind for me is reason Taylor Swift should really finally consider going to therapy. Girl. Girl.
It's really garbage taste in men, but she's also like the perfect example of how you can appear like you're moving forward with your life and then you just don't.
All right, last thing. Late night.
I miss Conan O'Brien. I miss him. I miss his tall, gangly, gumbo figure. I miss him going to the American Girl doll store and acting like a drunk lunatic with a doll that was just as glassy eyed and dead in the face as he was. I miss him going to a Korean spa with Steven Yeun and trying to touch as many
Oh.
dinglings of old Korean men.
You know what? Oh my god, that's classic. You know what I really, really miss? And I was watching YouTube videos of the other day, the Walker Texas Ranger lever.
Oh God, that was like From his late night with Conan O'Brien days, right?
Yes, the
Yeah.
original OG. Yes, very, very, very good. What comes to mind for me for late night is finally free from the atrocities of James Corden. So yeah,
I can't believe you guys imported him. And maybe it's like trying to pay like some sort of karmic toll for the sins of the past, but like, what a blight that was
let's
on
ship him back.
culture.
Let's ship him back. Give us Graham Norton instead. You know, like we'll take him.
Oh,
All right,
yes.
we'll take him. Move here, man. All right, so we're done. We're all caught up. That was it. We're all caught up with culture. We're all caught up with content. So let's move on to today's episode. But before we do that, let's do a little recap on social medias.
That's right, guys. We have to be posting on Twitter at least every 30 days or our account will get deactivated. So please follow us at Full Screen Pod on both Twitter and Instagram. We are on YouTube at Full Screen Podcast, where we upload our episodes and also post short clips of our episodes for the sound bites that the ADHD folks in our audience need. Shout out to them. Shout out to my attention deficit homies. We love you. We love you. Again, I'm going to repeat that because you may have missed it. And you can also send us an email at fullyscreened@gmail.com for any business inquiries, but also episode ideas and anything that you may want us to cover specifically for the podcast. Or just give us your conspiracy theories about why Taylor Swift and Matt Healy are not actually dating. And here are the 15 reasons why. We love receipts.
15 reasons, there's one reason. Matt needs that money. After that chicken shop date episode where he was trying to kiss Amelia and she said, no, you're a wet cigarette. I'm not going to do this. All right, guys, please reach out to us if you have any thoughts, comments, ideas. We're here. Okay, on to today's episode. Very important one. So we thought we would do our first episode of season 2 with what's going on in the world. We're going to do a Industry Tech Roundup and take this moment to really shine light on the historic labor rights movement happening right now, the WGA strike, the Writers Guild strike. So we're going to do a summary of the issues on the table, the main issues, why the WGA is really fighting for their survival for the future, and why the AMPTP, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, are pushing back, and what the short-term and long-term impact of this movement are going to be on in just the streaming world and in the world of tech and product and really our industry. All right, let's discuss.
Welcome into the All Hands section. Today we're going to be discussing the ongoing Writers Guild of America strike. Let's call it the strike of 2023 because this is actually not the first time that the WGA has gone on strike. So we're actually going to be trying to cover as quickly as possible the ongoing strike, their demands, and what potential effects that it could have on the industry as we know it. So before we get into any of that, what is the Writers Guild? So it is actually the combination of two different labor unions, the Writers Guild of America East and the Writers Guild of America West, because there are productions done on both sides of the United States. And the unions are representing writers, obviously, from both film and television, but also has expanded to include radio and online media over the years. They work together, especially on, of course, like labor organization like this, but also they work to ensure that writers on both sides get proper credit and establishing dates of creation of literary property when they are, submitting different scripts to be purchased or reviewed by people in the industry. And they also get together to present each other recognition and awards. The Writers Guild of America has its award season slot as well. So people who are members of the WGA get to submit their scripts for nominations, and a
Very
lot of these.
valued within the community.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you get respect from other writers. They bolster you or they want to work with you. And me and Kira, being the old, tired hags as we are, remember the 2007 strike that the Writers Guild performed when we were back in college. Oh my
I
God.
was shook. I was like, this can happen? Shook.
Fresh, nubile, impressionable, and honestly, one of the most prominent displays of labor organization that we had seen at the time, because obviously we didn't live through the time where there were literal children working in the coal mines. I mean, we're about to be living that shit now. And at the time in 2007, it was about new media, compensation that was coming in for content that was written for the internet, which was at the time kind of not well established as a stream of income.
Very much remember going on CC, ComedyCentral.com, and watching Jon Stewart videos, and I was like, I can do this?
Yeah,
What?
it was insane. It was incredible. And there was like so much that you could do without accounts and paying for it. It was kind of crazy. It was a wild time. Yeah, this was the time that even like Hulu came out as a company. I don't think it had been
Shouts
transformed.
to the original Hulu show, The Riches. Incredible.
Yeah,
Minnie
incredible
Driver.
stuff. It was like it was one of the shows that got kind of punished as well for the writer's strike, because a lot of the cast and crew supported it outright. But the writers wanted compensation for that. They wanted to get a proper cut of DVD residuals because the home market was burgeoning at the time as well. But another thing that was not part of the union jurisdiction at the time was writers for animated television shows and reality programs. I hope I'm not bursting anyone's bubble when I say that that shit is also scripted, because there are people who come in and kind of push things a certain way or have an influence in the way that conversations go. So, yeah, truly, those a lot of those moments that you just look back and go, "Ooh, iconic" or classic. Except for, of course, like, it's crazy that all this is happening while Lauren isn't here from the hills. Like, that to me, and the
Classic.
people are dying, Kim. That's not scripted, but that comes from the genius of the people involved in front of the camera. But yeah, the union did not include those writers, and of course, those shows that they're working on were making money, and they weren't seeing a cut of that. So let's go 16 years later. Fast forward to 2023, when all of those issues are still kind of there, but they've just mutated in a disgusting, cancerous way, where the home market completely changed. People aren't necessarily renting DVDs anymore.
Yeah.
Although I think David fucking Zaslav is probably going to bring that back, because I've started buying media now, trying to own it, because who
Yeah.
knows when that shit will get yanked from a streaming service. And streaming has, of course, changed the way that home rentals work, but also it is now the primary distribution model for a lot of things. And they're not seeing a proper cut of the
We have to
profit.
say it's 16 years it took, because the issues have mutated over the 16 years, and streaming has honestly like changed the landscape for a while now. But there was, during the pandemic in 2020, there was a contract negotiation as well, and during that time obviously the pandemic was happening, and the WGA let AMPTP get away with a lot of stuff, because I think at that time people were trying to survive. So
Mm-hmm.
while they would have wanted to talk about all these issues previously, it's just now they can't afford to ignore these anymore.
Right, because one of the things that they're discussing now, and I can't even believe this is something that's to be discussed, but it's a minimum employment period, which to me just sounds insane. But if I have to break this down in terms of my understanding, there's different components to creating a television show or a movie. There's the writing process, the pre-production, the kind of building the sets, blocking where actors work, rehearsals and stuff, and then like actually making the thing and then working on it post-production, and then it goes out. So writers aren't necessarily involved for the whole process. That makes sense. But what they're asking for is a minimum guaranteed period of employment. And I, as an employee, can totally see that being required, because you need health insurance, you need income, and you need to be qualified as an actual employee and not a part-time or freelance employee, because
You're turning this into a gig economy thing, like
basically,
everything that's happening. And
basic,
there are three main issues as we understand, and this is number one, the TV staffing minimum, the minimum weeks of employment, and how it ties into the career pathing of writers, which is completely at risk. This as a livelihood, being a writer, seems to be just disappearing. And yeah, by the way, we should mention, if you go to WGA.com, you can see all of these details in a lengthy document, which is public. You can see both positions and why the writers were asking for all of this stuff. Highly, highly encourage that. If you read about it, and there's a lot of great podcasts about it too. We'll give them a shout later on in the episode. But as the model, from what I understand, Raven, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as the model has shifted from like 24 episode seasons, streaming is now 6 episodes, 8 episodes, 10 episodes. The employment period has really shortened, and not only this, the staffing, the usual used to be that you had 6 to 12 writers before in your writer's room, and now it's become more like 3 to 6 writers. So like more work with a lot more of a budget. There's like $25 million shows being made now, just incredibly unsustainable costs, and more work, a lot more responsibility for a shorter period of time, for a staff that's cut in half. And the kicker is, the writers' rooms, the development rooms, the mini rooms as they're being called now because of the short staff, short weeks of employment, have now kicked you out of your career path of becoming a showrunner, which is what you want to do as a writer. So you
right?
start out as a staff writer, and you want to be involved on the set. You want to talk to writers, you want to talk to editors, you want to change dialogue, you are involved in post-production and ADR, dialogue replacement. All of that is taken away from you because you're kicked out before the show. Sometimes it's even greenlit. How are you going to learn to be a future showrunner, producer, creator of content as a new writer? That's just being taken away. So how is the industry going to survive if there's no writers being trained anymore? And this used to be, again, there's an interview on the Town podcast with Matthew Bellany, where he interviews one of our favorite writers, showrunners, Mike Shore. And Mike Shore talks about the pride that he has in training future showrunners, how many showrunners he's produced from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, from Parks and Rec, and all of these shows that he's run. And that is completely disappearing now. People are struggling to survive in
You're
this
just
profession.
you're just talking about the future, and I'm trying to just bring it to the present, where you're asking for people to work on projects where you're supposed to read 12 series of fantasy books and write up a spec script for the entire season, and then have all these requirements of pulling elements from the book, editing what can't work cinematically and edit what can. And you're just asking people to do things that involve so much labor for a short time, and then you don't get any compensation for that in the present, and of course in the future, when you work on something and it becomes a massive success and you are getting none of that credit because, well, maybe you don't want the fame. Maybe you don't want the awards. Maybe you don't want the recognition. Maybe you just want to get coin, paper money stacks. And you're working on something that is a massive financial success for the streaming service or studio or whatever. And it's been playing in theaters or it's been on the streaming service with a lot of views. And you're not seeing a cut of that profit. Look, that's what's referred to as residuals. I think we discussed this briefly when we talked about HBO Max cutting out content from the streaming service because they don't want to pay residuals to people. That's something that they're contractually obligated to do for the talent that's on camera. I think most of like Jerry Seinfeld's money doesn't come from when he actually makes Seinfeld, but
Residuals are incredibly important because this is an
yeah.
industry which is very ageist, as we know. So you want to survive later on in your
Mm-hmm.
career, in your life. This is how you survive. This is the model.
And I wish that concept was applied outside of the entertainment industry because a lot of people create the template for something that is a jumping point for success of a lot of other things. I'm happy that there are things that are open source, for example, because we are both from software. We understand the importance of that. But just imagine building something for somebody in a company, putting in your time and your labor, and then you either leave or you are made to leave, as we've seen with tech layoffs. And they continue using what you built to make other things that make profit for them. And I'm like, hello, you're using what I made you. Don't I get a cut of what you're supposed to do? Because it works the other way. If you build your own personal projects on your work computer, which for anyone who is listening that is young and impressionable enough to do that, do not do a single thing that relates to your personal life on your work computer. They literally have claim to be able to do that. If you are a software worker and you're just writing like your erotica on your little work computer that you intend to publish later, your employer can come back and claim that you did it on company time and company property and they get a cut.
WGA has asked for 655% increases. So what this means is over the course of years in your contract, I think in the first year of the contract, you get 6% of the residuals. Then in the second year, you get 5%. And then moving on, you get 5% like after the first 2 years. This is not what the AMPTP is agreeing to. They're giving a very low number. And we know that streaming shows and streamers have been very, very successful with certain content. Think Wednesday, think Stranger Things. It's
It's
just
being obfuscated on purpose because it would give them the bargaining chip to understand that we have seen so much success. We have seen a quantifiable amount of success, and this is the percentage that at least let's not talk about what we deserve morally. We're talking about an equitable division of the profits because we all came together to create something that's making you profit. We need to be able to see that in return so I can pay my fucking rent so I can come back and churn out more scripts for you for the next season with more memeable moments and things that can be really good in a TikTok reel. Like, you want that shit. They're just asking for an equitable distribution of profit so that they can not only match what the labor they put in, but also continue to work in an industry and in cities and locations where you can't exactly live on $300 a month. So the last, and I don't know if it should be last because it's not the least, item on the WGA's list. Don't let robots take our fucking jobs. Sorry, I guess they call it the AI clause, but I'm
but
simplifying
this
it.
is not a joke. Like, don't let robots take our jobs.
Right. So we've all had fun with ChatGPT, and I've been experimenting with Bard, which is the Google version of my AI girlfriend, and they basically can bring up prompts for, writing. And I think that in specific cases, like trying to come up for copy in marketing, or for people who work in marketing, where they need to, create that little bit of text on Instagram for the Instagram post, this is a great tool. But if you are, for example, an unethical asshole working at Amazon that says, yo, write me some Tolkien like shit about the Middle Earth, and you take that script and you find, some college lit majors who are just trying to get internships for the summer and say, hey, write me up some scripts. And then you pay them $15 for it and maybe buy them lunch. And then you make the season two of the Rings of Power. That is absolutely conceivable right now with what AI can do. Ooh, Seinfeld in modern day. What happens? George starts dating a non binary person, hijinks and shoes. Like, imagine if someone actually started to be able to do that because you can get away without having to pay anybody for it. I mean, you're not even really paying the people in ChatGPT or paying the people at Google to use their Bard AI or anything like that. You're just using this as a method to cut cost. I just think that this is something that people need to be able to apply for every aspect of their job. I mean, we work in tech. If software
Yes.
developers begin to mobilize and organize their own labor, this is a protection that I feel that they could also use, because it's only a matter of time before someone says, we don't really need front end developers. We don't really need
Oh,
mobile
yeah.
developers anymore.
I mean, that movement is really starting, and we'll dive deep into the impacts on tech a little bit later on. This AI in storytelling, and reading about it and learning about this sent a chill down my spine. Because if you're not really aware of the issue and you're just playing with Bard or ChatGPT for fun, it's all fun and games when you realize how good it can be. And it's only the beginning, right? It lacks, right now we say it really lacks the quote unquote human element. It like takes the dry things of update the stories with more people of color, which is great, more non-binary folk, which is great, but it's not a human writing it, so it's not someone that is actually experiencing things
Mm-hmm.
around them to be able to add any spirit to these
And it's
stories.
almost always an emulation of something. It is supposed to be verisimilitude because it's always based on something else that was previously created by a fucking human being. There
Exactly.
there isn't anything that's coming springing from the depths of whatever clump of wires that I imagine the AI brain looks like, because it is always based on previous property. I think we touched on it on a separate conversation, but there was this thing going around, an AI image generation. This is not the same as text, but of Wes Anderson's Star Wars. And the lead of Moonrise Kingdom, Jared Gilman, came out and said, guys, go see Asteroid City. You don't have to wonder what if Wes Anderson made Star Wars would look like. He fucking made Asteroid City. Go see it. Symmetrically on the screen, you can actually see human performances by actor Scarlett Johansson. Why is there a compulsion to find the formula and replicate it for yourself? If you're like, he does the same thing over and over again, oh, okay, so why are you trying to do it then? What
Yep,
is the point that you're fucking
exactly.
trying to prove?
I just want to. So basically, it's buzzwords and nouns that are trendy right now, joined by just fillers and adjectives. That's happening. But speaking of images, and Raven, you and I talked about this off mic. I saw this. I think it's an Instagram account where like classic Hollywood stars, generated by AI. I did not know that these photos were generated by AI, and I was looking at Hedy Lamarr and Audrey Hepburn and images of them modernized for 2023 by AI software, and I did not know what account I was looking at, and I was like, wow, there's something, what a beautiful woman, what a beautiful person, but there's something so off, looks so off, like it's inhuman. Then I looked at the side-by-side pictures of the actual human from a few decades ago, and it was very clear that quote-unquote person really just looked at, oh, lip fillers are a thing, and buccal fat removal is a thing, and cheek fillers are a thing, and, you know, whatever, the ponytail, facelift, the whole thing is a thing right now, so let me add this to all the women, and here it is. And it just spit out a ridiculously just scary, almost human but not human image, and it really just, it's not good, guys.
Right.
We need to talk about this.
While you were searching for an exorcist to come and spray holy water and compel whatever it was that you were seeing in the name of Christ to leave you alone, you also realize, and Nikki, you brought it up, it's all based on existing things. And in some cases, it's dead human beings whose likeness is being used without their permission or without the permission of their estate. So what a joyous and wonderful time to be alive. But in the very specific case that we're talking about for the WGA, it's also that you're creating things based on writing styles and off perspectives that other people have put their creativity and their thought into. And you're just saying, I'm going to apply that and I'm going to do this and I'm going to type in the name of 2 shows. And I used AI to do this, and you can tell because it lacks the perspectives, the human creative input that made those individual things that you have brought together and smashed together thoughtlessly. And I just don't think you're going to get the same audience response. But as we all know, that's not the bottom line. It is profit. And David Zaslav, I'm going to say his name over and over again because he's truly the villain in this story, but especially someone like him who gives zero fucks about creativity, who wants to push all his money into making, you know, interior design projects that you can see and have unrealistic expectations of what you want in your home. And oh, by the way, we have a store. Go check out our, you know, $600,000 dining sets and buy that so you can pretend that you live in a southern plantation in the middle of like Teaneck, New Jersey, whatever. Oh my God, this is getting me riled the fuck up. Like I can just imagine him saying the next season of Velma, just run it through an AI.
Oh, there is going to be a next season of Velma?
Yes.
All eyes on Max.
Do you think the suffering in this lifetime is over? No, it's not. And this is the kind of suffering I want to prevent. Just robots. No.
All right. By the way, y'all, Raven is holding her baby, her little baby pup, Trudy, right now, and it's very distracting because the cuteness is a lot for me. But I will try to get through this.
She says support the WGA.
Yeah, Trudy, we believe in it. All right, so welcome to the missed objectives and key results section. So this is where today we'll discuss where David Zaslav, with a pay package of $250 million.
The fucking nerve, the gall.
And Ted Sarandos, with a pay package of a meager $50 million, are missing the mark, while the writers who pay for their mansions and yachts struggle to stay part of the middle class. I don't think, Raven, it's clear which side we're on. So, in the name of presenting both sides, we're going to recap what the studio's position on these 3 key issues are. that Raven very kindly recapped for us. All right, so before we do that, let's talk about the AMPTP. What is it? So think of it as the mortal enemies that make up the High Table Council of 12 in the John Wick franchise. So it's basically the traditional member companies: Paramount Pictures, Sony Pictures, Universal Pictures, Warner Brothers, Disney, broadcast TV, ABC, CBS, NBC, your other big broadcast companies on TV. And then now the new addition is all these modern content companies, the streamers: Netflix, Apple, Amazon. I love, Raven and I talked about this, my favorite thing is just picturing Tim Cook sitting on a round table with Bob Bakish of Paramount and Bob Iger of Disney and just trying to understand and keep up with these cool guys. It's like weird topsy-turvy high school cafeteria economics. I love it. So all eyes seem to be on Netflix, again, for originally upending the storytelling consumption model all those years ago with House of Cards, and then HBO / Warner Brothers / Discovery for being the latest in really, I would say, devaluing creators with seemingly nonsensical mergers and seemingly slashing content in the name of profits just randomly. And so let's get to the responses. According to The Town with Matthew Bellany, which I really, really recommend, has been really good in recapping the WGA strike recently, a studio exec reached out to declare that they offered 40 pages of proposals to the WGA, and they responded with one page that had 2 lines. So this is what the AMPTP is putting out there. This has been their response to really decredit, miscredit, decredit, discredit. There we go.
This is why we need writers. Just
oh
saying.
My goodness, writers.
We had an organic moment of why do writers need to be paid? Oh yeah, that's why.
Yes, exactly. And they're really putting this out there that WGA is like a bloodthirsty organization, right? Sort of like they're not agreeing to how willing we are to negotiate. All right, let's get to the number one issue. So the staffing minimum weeks of employment, and the career pathing with mini rooms, writers' rooms. So studios are pushing back here because the nature of, according to them, the nature of different shows is not considered in this proposal. So some shows, according to them, are 6 episodes and they don't need a full writer's room. Other shows are increasingly auteur-led. Think Craig Mazin with The Last of Us, with Chernobyl, and think Mike White with The White Lotus. And they feel they would be paying writers, the gall here, Raven, to essentially sit around and do nothing. According to Deadline, quote, "If writing needs to be done, writers are hired, but these proposals require the employment of writers, whether they are needed for the creative process or not. While the WGA has argued that the proposal is necessary to preserve the writer's room, it is in reality a hiring quota that is incompatible with the creative nature of our industry." End quote. My thoughts are, so I think anything that I've read and anything that I've heard about this has really praised the negotiator of AMPTP, who is Carol Lombardini, who is very well prepped for all of this on behalf of AMPTP. However, from all these things, from what I know, is that the way they're understanding the issue and the way they are really issuing their statements is a red herring. And all these voices of WGA, most notably Adam Conover, who's on a trail of destruction against the AMPTP right now, highly recommend, is really saying that their AMPTP is completely missing the mark with this issue. They are, as we mentioned when Raven talked about this issue, it's the disappearance of the writer's room needs to be set in stone that that is never going to happen. And with mini rooms, which is already cutting writers, and the minimum weeks of employment, minimum staffing, all of this is decreasing to the point that it's really paving a path for having no writers
Mm-hmm.
at all, which really goes into AI and storytelling, which we'll
Yeah.
get to
I
that with Bob
think
later.
that the equivalent of this, as you can say, is if you have, and I'm not equating these professions, please don't get me wrong, but if you are building hospitals to serve different demographics or different places. A hospital in New York City, for example, cannot be expected to have the same level of staff as a hospital in like small town Kansas. I mean, the number of sick people, of course, is just going to be proportionally different, but their output literally has lives depending on it. But if you're going back down to the scale, you're going to get shitty work from people who are overworked. You're just not going to get the same level of things that you would for somebody else, and that's what they're asking for, is that things are properly staffed so somebody can come in and take over without necessarily ruining the flow of ideas or ruining the flow of creativity or taking things in a different emotional or tonal direction that was previously set by people. Because even you as a viewer with no knowledge of like background or who's doing what on a TV show can sometimes tell something feels off, something is different. And then when you go back and look at things on Wikipedia, you're like, oh wow, the writing staff changed. Huh, that's probably what I was feeling and noticing as a viewer, but couldn't quite put my finger on it.
Or one white guy was writing about drug addicted persons of color in high school.
Fuck Euphoria, that's what we're trying to say. He could have used a writer's room for sure. I think that the whole way that Sam Levinson handled the storyline for Cat, I mean, it was a fucking tragedy. But that's again like worst case example. I think one of the examples that I can think of that was like actually a moment of self reflection was for the first season of The Legend of Korra. It was just Brian Konietzko and Michael Dante DiMartino writing all 12 episodes. And then they brought in more writers because they were like, oh, we're limited. We can only do so much. We can only think about things so much. And they are the creators
Exactly.
of both Avatar and Legend of Korra, but you can clearly tell how the writing shifted when they brought in more people because they were thinking about different perspectives. People have, you know, doing a little bit of self insert of their own experiences sometimes also brings out certain aspects. So you want to get a writing group that's staffed with different kinds of people with different kinds of perspectives.
This is where this is, borrowing from our day to day. By the way, great example so far, Raven, but this reminds me of our day to day when a stakeholder goes, why can't you do this? It's just one small change. Why can't you launch this today? And to talk them through accessibility concerns, to talk them through like different screen sizes, to talk them through what PRs mean, to talk them through what validations mean on staging environment, and what it means to really look at a contextual feature launch is, it shocks them once you actually explain to them the process. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what is lacking in these execs. There's no understanding of the creative process. And to treat Craig Mazin and Mike White and all these auteurs as the norm and not the exception, to treat, for example, the staffing in a Kansas hospital as the norm and not the exception. When you look at
Yeah.
like larger cities, it
A,
really
a,
leads
a
to a
country
disaster.
doctor is doing it by himself. Why can't you in
Exactly.
Manhattan? It's like, are you insane? And for another, I don't think either Craig Mazin or Mike White says my writing doesn't benefit from someone else taking a look at it.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, they're as far as we know, they're very much in support of the writers' room and their guilds. And then regarding the gig economy piece, the AMPTP has responded that writing jobs come with substantial fringe benefits. Fringe benefits, by the way. It gets so good here, guys. Employer paid healthcare, employer paid contributions into a pension plan, and paid parental leave program. You get fringe benefits, so shut the fuck up. Um, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
What is this? Why is it called a fringe benefit?
Like, I don't even I don't want to get into that. But let's get to the second issue, the response on residuals. Their response is that in the most recent contract, 2020 contract negotiation, the WGA negotiated a 46% increase in residuals for streaming programs to take effect starting in 2022. In many cases, writers are only beginning to see these increases, which they're saying you don't understand how residuals work, you haven't seen money yet. And also this 46% increase is like such a non-contextual number. Increase from what? You never got any streaming residuals before, so now you're getting 46% of that? Bullshit. And they're also saying that you don't understand. So again, quote, the WGA's proposal on foreign streaming residuals represents a 200% increase over current rates. What are the current rates? Tell us that. And treats foreign subscribers the same as domestic subscribers. However, subscription fees vary from country to country, and in many countries, the fee is substantially less than in the US, blah, blah, blah. What a non response. I'm thinking if I weren't horrified, I'd be amused. All I have to say is share the data, give us the data. You have it. I know it. Raven knows it.
This is an exploitation of the fact that they're not good at math, and that's fine. You're a writer. You don't have to be good at math. Sorry, I get that. Like, I'm from an engineering background, so I'm just like, you're just spitting numbers at me. Trust me, I fucking know when someone is spitting actual, like, real data versus just numbers, 200%. And I'm like, 200% of zero is still zero, bitch. Like, what the fuck
Exactly.
are you going on about?
Also just saying it's like saying like the metrics. I have that many followers. I'm like, I don't want vanity metrics. Give me the engagement, give me the CSAT, give me the funnel metrics that actually make sense. But it is the same thing of like, if I read numbers, I sound smart. And when I read the foreign subscribers line, I was so amused and horrified because we know when we enable products in different foreign markets, we of course look at different ways to adjust to these markets. For example,
Yeah.
looking at how language is read, right? The markets that have right to left
Localization
languages.
and right to left is,
Exactly.
yeah. And also, we
Exactly.
just don't convert prices from US dollars to the other currency. We have to adjust for like quality of life and being able to understand how much disposable income is a percentage over there versus here. Like, it
That's the
doesn't
thing.
come into like direct translation.
You're telling me that these people who've HBO exists in all these global markets. You're telling me all these teams don't understand how to profit off of these unique feature sets in all of these markets? Come on. I do not believe you. You have product managers for all of these different markets and different locales, and you're basically saying we don't understand foreign markets, so we can't pay you just money off of these foreign markets because we don't know how many subscribers exist. Absolute bullshit. I just don't buy it.
Don't buy it. They know how many people are there. They're just obfuscating on purpose because they don't have to disclose things. They're private companies, not public companies, so they can basically get away with lying. It's legal for them to lie about what they're doing so that they can adjust their share price accordingly. And that's really what they're trying to do to make money as well. So,
Yeah, it's rough. And then, I would honestly appreciate if they came and said, hey, listen, streaming thing, we're not profiting off of it, even though we've increased subscribers. We are really afraid. It's a new thing. Our stock is down. We're trying to figure out what is happening. So give us some time and we'll figure this out together. The thing is, the dishonesty is really getting to me. Just come and say we don't know what we're doing. Maybe you work off of some like honesty. Who knows? All of this where they're like playing a game of like blaming, you don't get the numbers and you don't understand how foreign subscribers work and you don't understand how residuals work, y'all, no.
Why are they behaving like the 21st century version of the Dutch East India Trading Company?
Boom.
Like, what is this tyranny? This is like actual tyranny. I'm talking to people who call like giving gay people rights tyranny. Like, this is literal fucking tyranny over here. And I don't understand why no one else is calling it up. I'll be that foreigner who comes in and says, guys, there's a way to tell how many people are watching HBO in foreign markets. Like, we're not quit your fucking racism here and pretending that there's no technology in these jungles that we're watching HBO in. Like, again, this is just like, oh, we don't know anything, we're just hapless, like innocent little babies, like, we don't know, we can't help you, we don't know. And I'm just like, how does this work in this day of information where you can get so much from our internet service providers without our consent? I mean, I live in California, which we have the Consumer Protection Privacy Act. You're in the state of New York, which does not have an equivalent. So your internet service provider can give you all sorts of details about you to HBO, to Disney. Like, they will know your mother's birthday and will guilt you about not having given
We
her
got
a
nothing but a cop for a
subscription.
mayor, so
Yikes.
um big yikes.
Condolences.
Okay, so AMPTP's position on AI and storytelling is a non-position. So they've said the quote, "We are creative companies and we value the work of creatives. The best stories are original, insightful, and often come from people's own experiences." This is like when you're writing an essay to impress your professor, just starting with like the
Yeah,
context that I understand.
where's the legally binding contract that says we won't use AI? They're like, we love
No, no.
people. Having said that, yeah, AI is gonna write our stuff.
Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Continuing the quote. So, blah, blah, blah. For example, writers want to be able to use this technology as part of their creative process without changing how credits are determined, which is complicated given AI material can't be copyrighted. So it's something that requires a lot of discussion, which we've committed to doing. TLDR, they want to meet every year to discuss advancements in technology, is their answer. Hey, let's meet next year to discuss this more, and the year after, and the year after, and we'll see if humans exist at that point, and then it's moot. So, cool. Love this for us, love this for writers, love this for the industry and us as consumers of stories. My thing is, why has this not come up? Why can't we have like a chat GPT generated CEO of these streaming media companies? Just, if all you're doing is throwing darts at content created by people of color, creators of color, a chat GPT generated
Chat
person can do that.
GPT. Just get
Can do
that
that.
octopus from the 2008 World Cup. Just
Exactly.
get that octopus from I misspoke. I think it was 2010, 2011. But the octopus just sat on a picture and you can just have it answer yes or no questions. We don't even need Chat GPT. This is like too advanced for a CEO.
That octopus had a heart and spirit and brain.
And a big brain.
Yes.
It had a big
I
old brain.
I just want the WGA to go in there and be like, this is our proposal. Let's replace the execs with AI. Let's talk about that, because what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm done here. I just can't with this. The level of non-answers that they've given is so entertaining to me. And we're
Probably
if you're
AI
not
generated themselves, because who can
yeah.
come up with ambiguity better than an actual fucking machine?
Final thoughts and wrap up. So now that we've looked at issues on the table from both sides ish, we want to discuss our
Mm.
thoughts on the short term and long term impact of the strike on streaming and the tech industry at large. So let's talk about the short term. I think, we will likely not see any impact this year, is my prediction, but we will likely start seeing by the end of the year a lot more unscripted content, a lot more reality shows, because those are probably in the pipeline already, don't need, for the most part, writer support. So we'll likely start seeing a lot of that. We'll likely see a lot more foreign content, which could be good for us. That's great. We love to see more international content. But
Hmm.
this also means real decline in prestige content. Think tentpole shows, tentpole miniseries, tentpole movies, tentpole universes that are being built on these services. And again, like, this is short term. In the long term, or mid to long term, we'll start to see a lot of disjointed, unoriginal, non-contextual storytelling that doesn't
Hmm.
track due to this massive interruption in and production stoppage. This is just the content impact, right, Raven? What this means for streamers as they relate with tech, product design, engineering is that because there isn't going to be a push of prestige content, a push that could get more meaningful subscribers, for the lack of a better term, we will see a lot less, I would guess, I would predict, a lot less experimentation with features, a lot less creativity in investment in feature experimentation, performance enhancements, content personalization, because what are you going to do? Personalized content that is unscripted, personalized content that's reality shows, like, what Selling Sunset and Real Housewives, like, what, maybe there's a way to experiment to, like, one different kind of housewife and another different kind of housewife, but
Oh,
like,
I'm sure there's a BuzzFeed quiz that says, compile your astrological, sun moon rising with these like different reality TV shows. So I'm sure that that's there and it's insidious like that. But
confined to one genre, though, you're very limited in what you can do with your features, and
and I think
this
the intent of these streaming services was to be a home of multiple genres. Like we've talked about this before, where you have a connotation with saying this is an NBC sitcom or this is a CBS sitcom. And there is no such thing for streaming services because they prided themselves, and it was kind of like a a north star, if you will, from a quality perspective, where they said we're going to do things that are unique to the creators. And you can say that, oh, this feels like one of those CBS procedurals, or this feels like an NBC comedy from the 90s, but you don't have anything that says this is a Netflix comedy or a Netflix TV show, because the same platform has produced quality content like The Kissing Booth and also Orange is the New Black. So I can tell you from personal experience in 2007, 2008, when there was a dearth of new content that was coming in, yeah, I did start watching more anime. I started watching K dramas and J dramas, and just putting foreign content as something that you can go see when the real quote unquote content isn't available is kind of insulting. I think that the labor of people outside of the United States should not be devalued at the expense. Technology isn't moving at that fast a pace that you can't, you know, build laws or protections for labor without saying, okay, this isn't its final form. It'll keep evolving as things that we're governing keep evolve. But it's kind of bullshit to say that, oh, we can exploit foreign labor because the domestic labor market is being a huge prick about wanting days where they can be sick
yeah,
and not work.
that's the thing that they'll try to slip past the normal subscriber, right? Like nothing stopped, nothing happened. But if you are aware, you'll start to notice these things as an impact. For example, one of the things that we've talked about in maybe multiple episodes before is how much we love the tagging of content on Netflix and Shudder and all these services. When you see different kinds of content like Bridgerton, you see like tags appear like swoon worthy. When we're not fans of the gray man, but you do see tags that I've never seen before that do apply, like slick, because of the tracksuit wearing Kendall, one of the Ryans from Canada.
The one that's playing the Ken doll in Barbie, Ryan Gosling, the good
Ding
one,
ding
the Academy
ding.
Award nominee.
She's everything. He's just Ken, Raven. So so all of these things do matter for the customer to discover content, for the customer to engage with the content, for the subscribers to remain a loyal subscriber. And when you're just confined to one type of content, these start to decline. So just keep an eye out, because all of this will start changing. And
Mm-hmm.
beyond that, Raven, you and I again talked about this off mic, and I was thinking, does this actually cause any growth? Well, more importantly, decline in subscriptions. Does this actually threaten streamers? And sadly,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it does, just
Yeah.
because how prepped they are in their pipeline. But I will say, and Raven, I want to hear your thoughts here. I will say this is a perfect storm that's approaching, because what we haven't mentioned so far is that the DGA, Directors Guild of America, and the SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild, so actors and directors, are also going into negotiation later this
Mm-hmm.
summer. Directors have already started their negotiations, and they are also going to be discussing AI and streaming residuals as big topics. There is a world that these negotiations go bad and all these unions sort of align against the AMPTP, stand united against these corporations for the creatives. And if that happens, and if other things happen in the world, as we know, we've talked about the password crackdown for Netflix, if
Yeah.
Password Crackdown is also launched in the North American region at this time, this could be a perfect storm combined with the bad PR, which, guys, these PR machines of these corporations are asleep at the wheel. It's just not working for them.
Yeah,
And
they have a complacence for them because again, I think it's been made clear that they don't keep up with the changing times and the changing circumstances around technology, but also demographics. Because
this is what I like. I want you to cook here, Raven, because I know you have thoughts on how this labor rights movement is very important for the industry, but also how it's impacting other industries at large, especially after the pandemic, when there's a lot of realization about what it means to be a worker in the current world. And
hmm
tech has suffered greatly. There's layoffs, there's a lot of like contract work, there's a lot of this gig economization happening in tech as well. An industry that was a pinnacle of what you want it to be. People going to
that's
boot camps to be in a FANG company is no longer safe. Silicon
that's
Valley is
kind
no
of
longer safe.
the thing I feel that's the negative influence of fucking Tim Cook being at here because all right, let me go back to what you just kind of brought up. Do consumers care? I think the answer is yes. Not in an immediate way. I think people will ultimately cancel subscriptions because it's not worth it to them monetarily. But that will all again come down to the fact that Netflix is going to slowly devolve into the Love is Blind streaming service. It's not going to be the
While
Stranger Things
raising
service.
prices,
Yeah,
which is
while raising prices, while not allowing you to share passwords, whatever, it's going to become the Indian matchmaking, Love is Blind, nailed it streaming service. And people like, that's just
I'm
bullshit I
triggered.
can watch on
I'm
YouTube.
triggered.
Right. And no one wants to pay $20 a month for that. They're like, I can watch someone be a misogynist asshole on YouTube for free. I can watch someone fail to make a proper cake for free on YouTube. I don't need to do this. So there's a lot of competition, of course, from new media. I think that if you are of a certain age group and you're not even paying for all these services yourself, you're already splitting your attention between maybe watching something on Netflix or something on Amazon or something on Disney Plus, and then spending most of your time on TikTok and Instagram. It doesn't matter. And so, to the people who genuinely went after streaming because they were doing what was referred to as the time as cord cutting, like not watching cable, again, they're like, oh, this is bullshit. Content is becoming like cable TV again. I'm just going to give that up. And I don't know. Read a book, go outside. It's nice outside. And that's something you and I talked about a while back, was talking about the timing of the strike, where it's like, it's going to be a while before people notice this one because it's
Mhm.
summer and people want to go out and get lit until 9 o'clock at night because the sun is literally out until then. So it's rosé all day. But once the first leaf turns brown and everyone is like, time to get back to my fall shows, and if this isn't resolved by then, you will see people getting angry, and you can already see that the AMPTP,
Yeah.
AMPTP is going around and saying that the writers are doing this strike. And I'm like, you know who can resolve it though is you guys, and you keep saying no.
This doesn't end in the summer just precisely
Mhm.
because everyone's out, and Zaslav, for example, is just on his yacht in Europe, not interested in resolving this. And here, yeah, it will hit
No.
people in the fall when
Zaslav will be involved in this as soon as Greta Gerwig is asked to go start promoting Barbie, and she's going to be like, workers'
no.
rights for writers. And then
She's a member
Zaslav is
of the
going to come.
WGA. Yeah, she's not. Yeah, that's
She's a
another
member of
thing.
the WGA. She's a member of the DGA. She's a member of SAG. The multi hyphenate bitches are gonna come out. You know who's gonna fucking come out swinging round about the same time is my man Christy Nolan. He
Yeah,
probably wants to
baby.
gut streaming services with a fishing knife already, but he has plenty to say about. I will again bring up the fact that we have two massive releases this summer from hyphenates. We have Oppenheimer and we have Barbie from writer
It's
directors.
a double feature day, July 21st. Let's go.
Oh, they moved Oppenheimer. They were like, I think it's smart
When?
because they know the exact same crowd is going to see Barbie and Oppenheimer.
I was looking forward to that double feature. All right, well,
And when those two directors, who, by the way, it's not often that directors get so much attention during the press release. These are people who command the attention of the press because of the prestige
exactly.
that they've garnered as actor, writer, directors in Greta Gerwig's case, and writer, director in Christopher Nolan's case. You bet they're going to be asked about the strike. And I can tell you where they're going to be.
Also, not allowing their members to do any promo because that counts as writers working. And also, this means Emmys in September, which is really the sort of like start of the TV season. This is what we celebrate in television. Without writers, if WGA strike continues, which the prediction is that it will, well into the year, Emmys are canceled. This is, people need to start paying attention to this because the impact will be huge. And I think there's so much to learn here for tech and streaming. There's so much to learn. The WGA is so united. What can we do in tech? What can we do in product? What can we do as designers and product managers and engineers to sort of bring the same sentiment and protection and sort of, I don't know, same sort of united front. I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about our industry. I've been thinking about streaming a lot, and this is front of mind. And we would love to hear from you. This today was a lot. So if we've missed anything, if we've gotten any facts wrong, please reach out to us. We are always here to learn more.
I think, again, if we're trying to look at the perspective of how can we apply these lessons to our industry, which is sort of adjacent at this point because we're talking about streaming.
Yeah.
A lot of the same concerns apply. We create materials that are the base point of future materials being created for profit. We don't see income being distributed equitably across, the corporate structure that we have. I think we have certain protections that the Writers Guild of America doesn't, because the United States labor laws focuses on providing those priorities to STEM fields, which we qualify
Not for
for.
Elon. Not for Elon, baby.
I mean, I think there's a special law for that's a Nepo baby. If you have emerald mines being run in apartheid South Africa, I guess you don't really find the laws. The only laws that apply to you are the laws of physics when your big shuttle blows the fuck up. And
I really want people to look this up. I don't think people know this about Elon. About
the Emerald Mine thing? Oh yeah. And his sister owns a streaming service.
Oof. Okay,
it's called Passion Flicks. It adapts like all these airport Harlequin romances that you get at the airport bookstores.
We're gonna find out that's generated by AI. That's not a real person. That's
if you're not Elon and you're actually working in tech at our level, yeah, you qualify for like certain levels of labor protection that I don't think you can get as a creative. I think there are minimums around what kind of income you can make if you qualify at a specific title or specific level of expertise or experience in coding or program management or what have you. And I think we need to keep up with being transparent with our compensation. That's the biggest thing that tech has started to do. So let's keep that up.
Yep. All right. So that's where we'll stop for today. Next time, hopefully something a little lighter. We'll keep giving updates of WGA, by the way, strike in our subsequent episodes. But next time, we're mainly going to be discussing a different kind of British invasion. So we're going to be talking about the British streaming services, the BBC streaming service, BritBox, Acorn TV, and Gogglebox. Yeah, we're going there.
Yeah, it's the coronation of a new era of streaming mediocrity. I mean, British content.
Until next time, full screeners. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Happy summer.